Okay, guys, Sam here back with you on Wednesday, September 26th. We're kind of early afternoon here trying to get 3 done here as we did this polling here on Twitter today. So last up is Ripple to the dollar. Now, I've got a 4-hour here on Bitstamp. Now, I don't know that it matters how we count this, or really, so aside from these major pivots here. So we could make a case that this is some sort of A, B, C, and we finished in 5. That's actually not what I wanted to focus on here. I wanted to open this up a little bit and just show you how significant these algo pulls are on the way down, because these are pretty remarkable. So let me just show you this here, and then we'll get to the hard right edge. You just want to kind of drill this into your head so you don't ever ignore these. Okay, so I'm just on the 4-hour chart here of Bitstamp. Here's our pivot, first swing low. All right, so what do we do? Well, let's see what I want to do here. So here's our swing low. We go up between the 50 and the 618. We go down, we get first target, second target, get all the way to third target. So you look at that and you go, okay, well, maybe I've got a sequence here that's going to start. So I'm just going to take from the last pivot that we did. All right, so now here it is again. So we go from this pivot down here. So here's the algo footprint, right? Two, get all the way to second. But here's the main one here. We get a reaction. We get almost to second target. But there it is again. So we just keep the thing going, right? New low. Where's our last pivot? Right here. So here's the last pivot that we did it. What do? We come swing high, swing low. Whoops, I wanted this. Here's our footprint. Swing low, high, swing low, golden zone to the tick. Right? So what I always forget to do that. I got to double click that. So what did we get? 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row. Just perfect algo trades. Just right, you can't ignore those, right? So it's what moves the market. So it's always a question of what did they do last, right? Can we tuck in behind them? Which is why I always emphasize it's not the Elliott Wave that drives us. It's where we can use Elliott Wave to get in sync with what an algorithm did, right? So if you watch the last 2 videos, I just made a point of harping on that. You always want to find an opportunity where you know you're at least going to have an algorithm. Now, they're on both sides of the market, right? We know that. I've shown it enough times. It's on both sides of the market. But can we find an opportunity or a situation or circumstance in the market where we can look at a swing and say, oh, well, I know that I'll find an algorithm there. It doesn't mean the algorithm is right, because they're wrong all the time. But eventually, they keep trading it until they get so look at a sequence like that. You think they did all right coming down? So then we go to the absolute low here. Well, this is the last one that I noted here before we move over to the hard right edge. Where's our last one here? So this one was good here. This was the one. So we had another one here. This is the one I forgot. So from swing low, swing high, in between the 50, and then we've gone right to target. And double bottom at this target, reaction. So yet again, we don't have to wonder why that's happening or what happened here. Right? They held, got their target here, little visit. So again, that's profit was taken here. We can't identify exactly what happened there other than just more sellers than buyers. So they drive it down again, maybe to check the low. We've gone about as far down as we can. So if we look at this one here and think, so let me open this up a little bit. Got to move this up here. Okay, so working from this, because we had this pivot here, went perfect to target. I did notice this. So if we think about this as our last pivot, we go to our low here. Now, note here, we got a tick through, just a tick through. But look how we come down to target. So when I see that, it's a little slippage, a stop getting run. It's hard to know what causes that. But I did notice this, that if we use that as that, clearly that was significant to the market. We know we had algo participation there. And we go right up to that target right there. Okay, so you look at that and you go, all right, well, how is that helping me? We're way outside of it. Now, I'm a big believer in market geometry and using median lines. I would tell you that in conjunction with algorithms are the 2 most important tools that you need. We use Elliott Wave to weave around that. Now, my partner, who is an incredibly skilled technician, does not like to use the modifiers here. So I show you this simply. This is my own preference. So if we look here and look at this and I say, okay, well, I'm outside boundaries, I will go look at a modifier. And the one that I will always go to first is the modified shift, because that's essentially the same thing as a channel. So if I go from here to the modified shift, look what we get. Now, note what's happening here in the modified shift. We're moving price down 50% and over 50% in time. That's what causes that. So that's what the modified shift is. So but as I've shown this before, the modified shift is identical to a channel, right? So you can, I like it. So you note here, if I put a channel on that, it's identically the same. Right, so whether my partner likes to use channels, I will quickly go check the modified shift. I'll check the shift modification as well. I should say it that way. We have the shift and the modified shift. Regular shift just comes down 50% in price. Modified shift comes down 50% in price and over 50% in time. But again, I just make the point so that any of you that are not aware of that, the modified shift is identical to a channel. Right, as you can see, I just drew it on right on top of it. So the other thing that I will often do is if I get something like this, right? So all I've done is take that channel and go, so I've got an extension here, which would be the equivalent, if I put this on here, to get this hot, right? So another way you could do it is just go to the 200%, right? So you see that? So all I have is 100, 200%. It's the same thing as moving the channel, right, from here to here. So these tools are essentially doing the same thing, but it's a good way to kind of get a handle on, all right, is the geometry at play? Now, when I see this, okay, swing low, swing high, yeah, we got to tick through it. You got to allow for that occasionally. That's just it. Again, you don't know what causes it, but either way, if we looked at it here and you say, okay, well, if that broke, that algorithm is going to go to the other side. Here they come golden zone, they get a reaction, but eventually it breaks, and then they go back to the other side, right? They'll just keep trading the 50s until they get on the right side, and they always do. So we come here, we get through it, we get to come down here. So I'm going to move the channel off. Right? I like that red target. So look how many times that modified shift plays. 1 target, 2 target, 3 times we tag it, then we get the reaction. So this is what we call confluence. Right? So we've got the culmination of pattern. Right? We've got a 5-wave structure here. We've got an algo play hitting a target and a median line, the modified shift median line. Or you could say, if you don't like the modified shift, you say, I've got a channel center line being tagged at an algo target. Right? So you say, well, I don't like trying to pick the turn, so I'm going to put my stop a little bit below that low. Well, you got very close here, but you escaped here because we don't get a new low here. So if this is, I don't know that it really matters. If this is A, B, C, if we've got something like that, let me get that in yellow. So it'd be much like most of crypto, we had some sort of a combination. So maybe we've got A, B, C, or we've got a W, X, Y being the ABC. So what I can see is that I've got a good candidate here for an ABC. Now I have an extension here in the 5th that gets me here. But this 1, 2, 3 here is very good. So let me open that up so just to show you this. The reason I lean into that as a third. So one, we have a perfect tag in the median line. Let me get this right on there. Okay, so if I use my tools here, so I'd say, okay, it looks to me like that's a 1 wave. I've got a 2 wave going right here. Well, so here's our high probability zone, the first, as we approach it, right? Here's our 1618, 175, comes down, almost looks like it needed to go down and tag the median line before they got the reaction. So I lean into this as my third, given that swing relationship. Then I think, well, if that's 2 and I've got a good 3 here right at tagging the median line, well, I'm certainly going to check between the 2 and the 4 and see how that looks. So if I pull that, well, right where we're expecting it, right between the 38 and the 23 and the 38, get that right on there. All right, so between the 38 and the 50, so we get a poke through the 38 and down we go. And so look what we get here. So we get, I get this from this. So we come here, we come to the 38, we get our first target, it's not done yet, second target, and actually gets all the way down here to get third target, the larger, right? So this one is hitting from here, that's what hits there, right? As we come back to the median line, and then we get this reaction, right? So it looks to me like that's likely completing, even though it's not the prettiest, right? It's not uncommon to see extension in the 5th. So it looks like it's some sort of a 3, 4, 5 drives us down here. A big reaction. All right, so cool. All right, well, we got a reaction. Could that be, could the low possibly be in for Ripple? Well, okay, we know we're going to have some algorithms to work through on the way back. All right, so if we just as I took it on the way down, so we're going to have a whole lot to get through. This has got a long way to go, right? So even, it doesn't even make sense to draw them from here because it's so far up. But if this is going to go, if the low is in, those are the kind of targets we're going to have to get through. Here's a $1.80. Got to get back to a $1.80 if we've had a trend change, right? Big if we've had a trend change. All right, well, let's go from the 4 hour down to the 1 hour and see what this looks like coming off of this low. Well, here's our hard low. All right, so let's wick that. All right, we saw that, right? Perfect tag of the median line. Well, we do not get a new low. So it is possible that we could look at this as a one wave with an A, B, and a C coming down for a very deep 2. It's possible, right? But given the depth of that, I would check both of these pivots. So this is possible that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going in, right? So very deep 4, no doubt about it, very deep 4. So you look at that and you go, well, there's looks like maybe an A and a B and a C coming down. I'd want to wick off the one wave here, right? So if this is going to go that much deeper and we're going to challenge the wave 1, the proposed wave 1, well, I want to know about that. So I certainly want to be aware of that. And then I've just wicked off these prior pivots that were significant in the market. I can't even remember where that was way over to a prior low. So coming off of that, given how close that is, I would be checking for, so I know an algorithm is going to use the low, the dominant pivot. So I would be using this just to check. All right, so you go up to our 3 high. What do we do? All right, right to the golden zone. Oops, God damn. TradingView has changed something. It used to be that Control Z would get you back a stroke, but I think they've added that. It doesn't work anymore. They've made a change when they did that last update, so you can't Control Z to go back a step. Anyway, I digress. So here we go. 1, 2, big 3. A, B, C, 4 to the golden zone. Okay, so you can think, all right, well, certainly possible. It doesn't disqualify us. That's deep for a 4. Really last stand for a 4. It's possible, though. Or we have there's some sort of a 3, 4, and 5 is in, and that's the 1. Well, even if we go down to the 30-minute, it's really tough to get it out of there. So it looks like it's 1, 2. This looks more probable to be the 3. Even though we have this deep 4, until proven otherwise, that would be the pivot that if we broke this pivot here, well, a couple of things, right? So the obvious one, if we break that pivot, we don't have an algorithm working for us anymore. Right? Do you follow me? Right? If this comes down and we break this, I don't have an algorithm, right? Because here's my absolute low. I can't get an algo behind me. Where will I run into an algo, right? If this is coming back the other direction, get this right on here. Well, we're going to run into, so we know software is going to be written to start selling there with that as a target. We don't have to wonder about that. Now, it can get through the 50, could go up to the 618. Same target, doesn't affect it. But this is a sell zone. So the software written to start selling there, keep selling there. They flip here. If they flip there, then we get, if we're looking for the long side, right? If they flip on the other side of the 65, then we can get the algorithm working for us. Do you follow that? Right? So if I go from here to here, well, then I can get the 50 here with that having this target. Right? See, it's always a matter of, can we get lined up with that algorithm? And then can we use the Elliott Wave? Because that could be 1, 2 of the 5th. So maybe we're going to get a full 5-wave structure up here, and this 5 is going to go much higher. And this is going to end up looking more like this. So we might, maybe that's our 4. So potentially now this would be the 2 of the 5. So you'd be looking for it to do something like this and give us a 5. Now we've got a good completed, well, I can't do it on the 30. So let's go, if I go back to a 2-hour, now I've got a good 1 wave. Right? Even though, boy, dicey down here on this 2, I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 golden zone, boom, 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 going through targets. 1, 2, 3, wouldn't that be interesting? Gold, here, your first algo target off of this 618 puts in the 4 and then the 5 still to come. All right, where are you then? Right, now you have a real contender for a good 1 wave of the larger degree, but we're still just barely hitting $1. Right, we got to get up to $182 to run into that first 50 from the all the way halfway back. So, you know, maybe this doesn't look like this is too deep here. Let me get that back to original. Maybe too deep to get any help from the market geometry here, because we'd have to be putting 2, 3, and 4 on it. But let's try it. Let's get the 3 on there, see what that looks like. So maybe. All right, let's clean this up a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Well, we did come right back. So if we open it up now, we got to get these right on. So it looks like we've come back. So here, so we hit, so look at that. Telling you guys the reason that all these tools are on the chart. Okay, so if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so we come right back to golden zone, right back to the Vegas wave, but a candidate here for our 4. Now, it remains to be seen, because we have the potential that we've just done an A wave, and then we're going to do a B wave, and then there's a C, and then, you know, then this doesn't look as good. So we want this pivot to hold, that we have an A, B, C is in, and that what we're doing now is just the 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's what we're looking for. All right, so if that's the case, then if I take this back to let's go to a 30-minute. If this is our good 4, the assumption is that that 4 is in. And so now we might have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. God, even if I go to the 15-minute, I think you probably see that. All right, so if this is my 4, so let's clear up here a little bit. All right, so if this, so we'd have to trade it this way. A, B, C. Move you down. There's our ABC. Right? Is that technical? Let's check it. Length of the A. Front run by a couple of ticks on the B. Front run on the target by a few ticks. Looks like a good candidate for a completed ABC down here on this level. So ABC, potentially, here's my 4. So potentially now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got a contender here for a 1 wave. 2 going in, 3, 4, and 5 placeholders. So if we have a decent 2 coming, look here, I note this little low volume node here. So if we're going to get that, let's pull it off of the low potential. We don't know that that's necessarily our pivot here. This could have more legs in it, but we want to be looking. God damn, that annoys me. We want to be looking here right between the 50 and the 618. Okay, so here's our hot box right here. All right, look how that lines up with this low volume area here. Now we don't want to get, we know the a 2 can go deeper, right? But this is our prime zone. That's where we want to be looking for buys. Now, always look left. Any structural support here I can identify. Right? So I've got that right on top of the 65. So maybe you put a partial at the 50, another you add at the 618. On the assumption here, so look, there's a prior resistance offered the support here. Maybe we kick in again here, right? Certainly possible. So 1, 2, we get a big 3, and you know then that starts to make this pivot look better back down here. So potentially now 1, 2, if we're going to come off of this and complete this 5-wave structure, and we get this 1, 2, 3, 4, and we get an impulse. Well, could be a diagonal. We get a motive wave. Let me say it that way. If we get a motive wave coming off of this, now we've got a real contender that starts to validate this as a potentially significant low, because I've got a good solid 5-wave structure coming off of a technical low, right? When we started, we looked at it, hit that median line, hit that algo target. So we've got a contender here for a possible trend change. What's the tell? I do not want to see this low get broken. Right? If we come too deeply down here, then it reduces the probability that that's a 4 significantly. Not that it's not possible, just that kind of significant probability reduction would make you want to say, let's wait. Let's wait and see what kind of reaction we get. Because if this breaks, then the symmetry of the whole thing starts to fall apart. So even if I go back to a 2-hour here, 1, 2, 3, deep 4, maybe still, but this needs legs. I do not want to see that low get challenged again. So again, just looking left, look what we get here. We got prior pivots here that could come into play. So, you know, you want to pay attention to those. Where you know, again, all of these, I'll wick them all off. I just know that those were significant at some point to the market. So I pay attention to them. If I can't see them, I just scroll over and go, well, what the hell was that? Well, here's a pivot here. Right? Maybe that comes into play. Maybe these come into play. It looks like we just had a little visit there. So always a good idea to wick those off. Know that they were significant to the market. So if we can put that together with pattern, right? Our Elliott count. Here's our algo play. We're a little tough to get median lines on that, but we at least made the effort. We had to go to the 2, but you could at least frame this up here. Right? Maybe this is a return to the median line. We're going to go back up and push that upper parallel. That's not ideal for median lines because of the depth of the 2, but there it is, right? Back to the median line for a test. Up to the, what do we get, 300 here from the median line? Until we have some new pivots, that's what you've got to work with. So I like this here. I like it here because I know that if it breaks that, I want to be out. I like it better right there. So if we come down, we get a move off of that. All right, so let's just think about it. 3, 4, and 5 up for a target here. So if we hold here, right, then I've got a good candle. I know where I want to be out. So I've got a good setup here. So what kind of risk reward are we looking at? So if we caught it here, let's use that pivot. Here's our wave 3 target. Yeah. 786 is as far as I'd want to give that. So for buyer here, some of the 786, we get a wave 3. Well, that's 6.4 to 1, right? With an opportunity, if we get it, if we get that, with an opportunity to add, if we get this, then we get a little opportunity to add here for that. Now you've got, then you want to be looking at getting out because we know that if that completes that 5-wave structure, what's next? Right, 50% retracement of the whole thing. So we'd be pulling from this low now established as a good contender as a technical pivot. If we were to pivot up here, let me pull all of this off so it doesn't confuse you. Right, then our next buy is right here. Now, so there's a good example. So note, right, what comes back, potentially comes back into play here. Right, it's interesting how those will line up. So if, and we don't know, but if we come up here, if we do this, 2, 3, 4, and we finish, right? It's just good to have a roadmap. Well, if that finishes up here and we get a 5, I've got my pattern. Well, then I'm just waiting for the next 50, and then I've got a new buy zone. So just like I have this one between the 50 and the 618, then I have this one, right? For that to come down and do this right here, and then we go up for the big one. Right? Now we're just working off. So again, it's the same thing. Pattern, price, algo pull. By then, we might have some market geometry that'll be a little bit of a better fit without the severity of this potential wave 2 here. So we work with some new pivots. See if we can get some geometry around it that makes sense. All right, so maybe we're pulling from here to the 5 to the 2. All right, so again, it just always the same thing, guys. Always the same. So then we pull something like this and we go, oh, okay. Well, if that holds, 80% probability of getting there. We don't know when it gets there, right? It's a leading indicator, but maybe this is all up here, right? And we're going right there. Happened on the low. No reason to think it couldn't happen again. Right? So here's the first one. Wait for it to finish. You know the big 2 is coming. So this is a profit target. Reload. Looking for the big one. All right, guys. Hopefully you're seeing the consistency here of the approach, which is really what I'm trying to get across to you. It's doing the same thing the same way every time. Underlying asset does not matter, which is why my 20 years of doing this in markets other than crypto, it's the same thing, right? It's just fear and greed, guys. Human emotion, fear and greed. Fear, greed, fear, greed. Right? That's all Elliott Wave is, just trying to organize that human emotion. Right? These patterns tend to repeat because people tend to do the same thing. All right, guys, with that, I will wrap it for the day. Now, I am not going to be in town on Friday, so I won't be doing a Bitcoin Friday. Bitcoin on Friday, we did an update today, but my partner, Quan, I may be able to talk him into getting one for you. All right, guys, that'll be a wrap for today.